Bombshell report that came out from ProPublica appearing to reveal that for years, Justice Clarence Thomas has secretly accepted luxury gifts from a GOP mega donor, Harlan.
Another Supreme Court justice is under scrutiny. A new report from ProPublica claims Samuel Alito accepted a lavish vacation from a conservative billionaire with frequent business before the high court.
Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch is facing new ethical questions about a property he sold in Colorado.
Of course, Gorsuch is from Colorado, and property records show a property that he co-owned in Grand County sold for nearly $2 million to a prominent Law First executive.
And now there's Chief Justice John Roberts. Business Insider reporting that his wife made over $10 million recruiting for elite law firms, at least one of whom argued a case before the Supreme Court.
We're looking at a bipartisan bill that will be introduced in the Senate today aimed at implementing new ethics standards on the Supreme Court, though it still would police itself.
A U.S. Supreme Court justice is not elected, but nominated by the president and confirmed by the U.S. Senate. The justice has a lifetime appointment during good behavior, therefore can only be removed by process of impeachment. In any other federal court, there is a code of conduct for judges and an oversight board. The Supreme Court should also follow these rules, but don't. The problem is the Supreme Court has no ethics code of conduct, and they are independent from congressional oversight or mandatory rules. In the previous two videos in this three-part series on the Supreme Court, I talked about some of the recent controversial decisions and talked about the events on how we went from a balanced court to a 6-3 supermajority. If you have not checked out these videos yet, please follow the links. In this third part, we will discuss the many allegations of ethic violations by the justices and what can be done to fix this problem. A recent NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll found that 62% of Americans have little to no confidence in the Supreme Court, partially because of the controversial decisions they have made, such as overturning Roe v. Wade, curbing the EPA's power to protect the environment, backing out of U.S. treaties with Native Americans, striking down gun laws, upholding the right to discriminate against LGBTQ people, blocking Biden's student loan forgiveness program, protecting the rights of stalkers, and ending affirmative action in colleges and universities. Also, people have little to no confidence in the Supreme Court because of a number of ethics violations that have come to light with 4 of the Supreme Court justices. Here are some of the recent allegations that have come to light. Justice Clarence Thomas has received a number of gifts going back as far as 1998. Many coming from Harlan, a real estate investor and prominent Republican donor. For the last 2 decades, Thomas has gone on lavish trips around the globe paid for by Crow, including flights on Crow's private jet, cruises on Crow's super yacht, and stays at Crow's private resorts. Crow also gave $500,000 to a group founded by Thomas's wife, Ginni. Leonard of the Federalist Society, a legal organization that works towards getting conservative judges appointed to the most powerful courts in the country, has paid tens of thousands of dollars to Ginni for consulting work. It was discovered that between 2003 and 2007, Thomas failed to disclose around $687,000 in income his wife earned from the Heritage Foundation. In addition, Crow paid the private school tuition for Mark Martin Jr., Thomas's grandnephew, to whom Thomas has legal custody of. Crow also bought properties owned by Thomas and his family. The majority of these gifts were not disclosed under the Federal Ethics in Government Act, which does apply to Supreme Court justices. Furthermore, Ginni Thomas was involved in efforts to overthrow the 2020 presidential election, but Justice Thomas did not recuse himself when these issues reached the Supreme Court. Last but not least, let us not forget the sexual harassment allegations from Anita Hill, as heard in his confirmation hearing, and a 1999 incident in which he groped Moira Smith at a dinner party. Justice Samuel Alito failed to disclose a 2008 all-expense-paid high-end fishing trip to Alaska, complete with private jet travel arranged by Leonard Leo and paid for by hedge fund manager and major Republican donor Paul Singer. And the lodge where the three all stayed was owned by another Republican donor, Robin Arkley Jr., who footed the bill for Alito's lodging. Singer's hedge fund has appealed to the Supreme Court 10 times, and Alito did not recuse himself in the case and voted with the majority in Singer's favor. Justice Neil Gorsuch didn't disclose the identity of the person who bought a property from him in Colorado. It turned out to be Brian Duffy, the head of a law firm that has had at least 22 cases before the Supreme Court, to which Gorsuch did not recuse himself. Chief Justice John Roberts' wife has made more than $10 million in commissions from elite law firms, the amount of which was not disclosed by Justice Roberts. The key here is that the ethics codes require justices to disclose their spouse's employment, but not necessarily their salaries. Jane Roberts also owns an interest in a legal recruiting business that places lawyers in major law firms, including those who may or may not have cases heard in the Supreme Court. And while not an ethics violation as a Supreme Court justice, Brett Kavanaugh has in the past been accused of sexually assaulting women, including Deborah Ramirez, Julie Sweetnick, Judy Monroe Layton, and Christine Blasey Ford, the latter of which testified at his confirmation hearing. In response to the recent reports of possible ethical violations, there is a bipartisan bill introduced by Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski and Independent Senator Angus King to create a code of conduct for the Supreme Court. Republicans claim that this is a targeted partisan attack by the Democrats to question the legitimacy of the conservative justices and the Roberts Court. That claim is at least misleading and at most a downright lie. It is not partisan to want the Supreme Court justices to have the same accountability as any other federal judge. It is not a targeted attack on the conservative justices. It's just that they are the only ones that have the accusations of ethic violations. The Democrats are not trying to destroy Justice Thomas's reputation. Justice Thomas is destroying his own reputation with his own actions. Also, how can this be a partisan attack if a Republican senator and an independent senator are the ones leading this legislation? What this does show is that those Republicans do not care about the behavior or ethics complaints of the justices, as long as they rule in the favor of the Republican agenda. In response to the controversies in the Senate bill, Chief Justice Roberts keeps saying that they are working on an ethics code, but months have passed and nothing has actually been done. Here's the part where I ask the viewers to take action. Yes, even you can make a difference. If you have an opinion on a news story, don't just post about it on social media. Write your elected officials. Find your city council member, your mayor, your county commissioner, your state representative, your state senator, your governor, your U.S. representative, your U.S. senators, and even the U.S. president, and let them know what you think. I'm providing a link in the description below on how you can find your elected officials. In regards to the Supreme Court, there are 3 actions you can make. First, write to your U.S. representative and U.S. senators. While a Supreme Court justice has a lifetime appointment, they are still subject to impeachment. So, write to your members of Congress to A. Introduce articles to impeach the corrupt justices, and B. Vote yes on Senate Bill 1290, known as the Supreme Court Code of Conduct Act. This legislation would require the court to adopt a code of conduct, and then it would create a mechanism to enforce it. Second, write to President Joe Biden to add more justices to the court. In the previous installment in this series, we learned that there is nothing in the U.S. Constitution that says there has to be only 9 justices on the court. In the past, there have been as few as 5 and as many as 10 justices. Tell Joe Biden to add 3 or 4 new justices to balance the Supreme Court. Third, one of the reasons why we have a conservative supermajority is because 3 of the justices were appointed by a president whose views did not match those of the majority of Americans. In the previous video, we learned how the Electoral College helped Trump win the presidency while still losing the popular vote. So, write to your state representative and state senator to end the Electoral College by joining the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact is an agreement among a group of states to award all of their electoral votes to whichever presidential candidate wins the overall popular vote in the country. The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact has already been adopted by 16 states and the District of Columbia. If more states sign on to the compact, they could override the Electoral College and the election would automatically be awarded to the one that has the most popular votes. So this concludes the 3-part series on the Supreme Court. Thanks for watching. Please help feed the algorithm by hitting like and subscribe. And please make a comment. I really would love to hear what you have to say. Also, please share this video on your social media or send a link to a friend. Thanks for watching. Until next time.